The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spent a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. Still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, my group would just jump in and help out. It was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
We are the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, HVERI for short. A lot of people know us from the 2018 eruption of Kīlauea in the Lower East Rift Zone. Working under Hawaii Tracker on the Facebook group. Since then, we've been trying to carry on and take the lessons, the hard lessons that were learned during that eruption and try and prepare for the next major disaster that comes to our island.
Yeah, so we do that through two different programs. One is volcano education, and the other part is digital resilience, which we address through online groups on social media. So the way the two programs work together is that the social media networks end up being a distribution pathway for all the information. And having that network in place means we can provide more than just volcano education, but any other preparedness information as well.
What we were working for really came about in the Mauna Loa eruption in 2022. Within hours of that eruption starting, we had the mayor, Mitch Roth, we had USGS-HVO Ken Hahn on the stream trying to help flush out a little bit of the ongoing because it's so new. It's completely different from our previous major eruption, which was 2018.
One of the things that Talmadge and I were talking about was how do we deal with social media? It was something we needed to figure out and get right. Our job is to get information to the public and make sure that the public get it as well as possible and as correctly as possible. When Philip and Dane started coming to and live streaming the meetings, it was great because we were reaching more people than we normally would. So when the eruption actually happened, we had this relationship. The interviews we did during the eruption, the most fun ones were the ones with Philip and Dave because they were more relaxed and we knew we were getting to the local community and people were asking questions. So those were the best, I think. I just want to really give a shout out to those guys and how we worked as a team on this eruption. It really worked out well and we got to a lot of people we wouldn't have normally got.
Aloha everyone, and welcome to our weekly Hawaiian Volcano Tracker. I'm geologist Philip Ong, here with Mr. Dane DuPont and Mr. Lou Latore from our nonprofit HVERI, the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute. Today's Thursday, November 6th, 2025. We are eagerly awaiting the onset of episode 36 from Kīlauea. How are you gentlemen doing? How are you doing today, Dane?
Doing good. Yeah, just kind of expected it to do something by this point. I mean, it's doing things, but the onset of the episode has eluded us thus far, and we are waiting it, and we will talk about it more.
How about you, Lou? Been watching closely?
Oh, nonstop, right? I mean, north vent, south vent, north vent again. It's quite the precursor activity on this one is definitely got everybody engaged because it's different. So yeah, all eyes on the caldera right now.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on the live stream here. You guys see on screen now, but otherwise we'll step through our usual paces here and talk about the signals we see and activity over this past week, and give you guys some other relevant content as well. Talk about Mauna Loa, maybe some other things happening relevant to Hawaii. Anything else, gentlemen, before we get into it?
Yeah, if you guys got any questions or comments, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we will see what we can do when we get to the Q&A.
Yeah, awesome. And Lou, if something starts happening on the stream, just jump in and let us know.
You got it.
All right, awesome. Let's get ourselves set up here. All right. Hello, everyone. This is our Hawaiian Volcano Summary for November 6th, 2025. Kīlauea is currently between episodes as we await episode 36 of the ongoing summit eruption. There's a live view from the V3 camera looking at degassing from both the south vent and north vents, which have been overflowing up until early this morning. Here is a clip from the V3 camera from overnight showing 3 big overflows that occurred, accompanied by small dome fountains that put out degassed lava out of the vent and across the crater floor. There were some overflows from the north vent as well that followed early this morning, everything over before daybreak today. So that's the view from the V3 camera. And from our thermal camera, the F1, I'll play this compilation, which goes back to the first overflow back on Friday evening and Halloween night, followed by Monday resumption from the south vent, and then the north vent, and then the south vent again, right? So alternating there. So if we take a look at the tilt for the past 3 months, we see here that our reinflation following episode 35 has been ongoing for the last few weeks, but has slowed a bit in the last couple of days here, leading to an extended forecast window from the USGS-HVO. Zooming in a little bit closer, we can see this slight deflation and stalling of the inflation rate, followed by a current small inflation, and we'll keep an eye on this as our update progresses. The current USGS-HVO update states that repeated overflows on the last day from both events indicate the start of episode 36 may be close, but that stalled inflation leads to a likely forecast window of November 6th through 11th. So that's from today until next Tuesday. This currently makes this the longest pause between episodes thus far, at 19.5 days of the current summit eruption. One of the main impacts we expect to have is the VOG and tephra coming from the main burst of the fountaining. And if we look at our VMAP VOG forecast, pardon the loading signal here, we can see that these variable and weakening winds over the next few days may disperse some of this VOG, not only to the southwest in the typical directions with the trade winds, but also to the north and the east towards more habitated areas near Hilo and Puna. So keep your eye on that. Our current Purple Air Citizen Science Monitoring Network is showing reasonable amounts across the island, but elevated in various areas for various reasons. And so that will likely get worse once that big outburst of gas comes. Turning to our earthquakes for the past week, they've been fairly low on Kīlauea. You see here a low population under the summit, the south flank, and Pahala, the same as we've usually seen. And looking at our counts for the past year, you see that we're within this thermal background range here that we've established ever since this eruption began in December of 2024. Looking at the GPS, this is on Uekahuna, south at Crater Rim, north and south across Kīlauea caldera. We see this big extension that occurs between episodes, with the crater extending roughly 6 inches within the last few weeks here, as it prepares to release and contract again once the episode begins. Turning to Mauna Loa, we have a new update from USGS this month. They note that seismicity rates increased by approximately 75% relative to last month. However, this is still within background levels for this volcano. And so that includes a recent magnitude 3.6 north of the summit here, in an area that often exhibits seismicity as the volcano inflates its summit magma chamber, as well as shallower earthquakes above the caldera itself, indicating that continuing movement of magma into the volcano. However, we have to look at the earthquakes per week over the last year to detect this recent change over the past month. And if we zoom out to the last 5 years, looking at earthquakes per month, we see that this increase is only a very slight jump compared to the previous rates we've had to the 2022 eruption. Even in the years ahead of it and the months building up to it, we are nowhere near any of those earthquakes. So volcano is filling with magma, but there is no reason for alarm or alert. We're just getting back to normal on Mauna Loa. And to show that there is no sudden change, we can see this extension of the Mauna Loa caldera north and south across its distance, continuing to extend at a similar rate as we've seen for much of the past year here, while also continuing to rise upwards, as it has done, perhaps a little bit faster since this past summer. And that's our Hawaiian volcano summary for this week. All right, so let's move on to our volcanic hazards. Put this back up there. And I thought I would start today just by showing you guys an S2 camera. This is, let's see if I can get this to loop. This is just a daytime views, so you can see the direction of gas, trade winds blowing in this direction normally. But there are a couple moments in here where you see the winds swirl, the gas comes towards the camera, blows that way or this way or this way. So we are coming into November now, and we've gone through this typical trade wind dominant pattern of the summer, and now we're approaching winter again. Similar to when this eruption first began, where we start having more of these variable winds and Kona winds potentially that might increase the impact of this eruption on nearby viewing areas, the highway, and communities as well. So there you can see it moving around. I thought this view, we're going to do something a little different this week and just jump to one more view, but it's going to be the B1 camera. So I'm going to play this back. This is the past, I don't know, 3 days here. And besides the actual eruption that's happening in this far corner of the crater, right, which is going to be something everyone's drawn to looking at, you can also watch the clouds above here, right? And so let me rewind us to the start again. You see we actually have Kona winds from west to east starting off. They reverse that same day. And overnight, we can't see the direction of the wind. We just see the overflows here. But here we see the trade winds coming back. And then we see the winds almost swirling. And then here we go, switching back to the Kona winds as well. So you can see the pattern over Kīlauea. You can imagine a big puff of gas coming out of here, which way it might go in this lower level of the atmosphere, depending on these low level clouds. And then you can see the upper level clouds also moving across the screen in varying directions too, depending on the moment. So there we are currently, and depending on if you've been watching the webcams live over the course of the day, you'll notice that the gas does come obscure certain points of view, and you have to switch cameras, and it seems to not last that long before it comes around. But depending on exactly the timing and when a puff of gas and all the lava starts coming out, then that could be carried to nearby areas. So if we look at the satellite data, this is the MOUNTS project looking at the SO2 emission band. So our most current image from yesterday is shown here, where we can see our source with this red triangle at Kīlauea summit, and most of this volcanic gas emission to the southwest, which is typical of the trade winds. But let me come back here, and so let's see, get this so it shows on screen. So there's the most recent, going back a day, a little bit less dispersal. The day before that, you see here a snapshot of one of these periods of time when the gas is carried north towards Hilo instead in the Kona winds. And so this is the main thing to be aware of. I remember when we were in early episodes, many people in the communities were coming and saying, oh, I just wish that the winds would change back because every episode brings fog into our communities and Pele's hairs into our gutters and all that kind of stuff. So we're, depending on how long this lasts, we're coming back into another season of that potentially here. So we're going back some of those snapshots in time of the gas emission. So not to dwell on that too much longer there, I'll just turn to the fog measurement and prediction program from Manoa, and their forecast dashboard is right now loading these monitoring stations. Earlier they were loaded, but now they're not. Maybe they will pop up here. Or not. It's just going to stay there, I guess. So we'll try something here. Let's try to close that and reopen it.
Whenever we go live with this thing, it really is temperamental.
Well, this site in particular, these SO2 monitors came online, I don't know, about a month ago, and they were working well, and then they seemed like they stopped working. And earlier today, I got them to load again finally, and then now so I expect they might actually be working on it actively right now as we're trying to look at it. Might be part of the issue going on here. So we'll just let that be, and let's look at the actual data here. So there's our emission source from the volcano, and the gas you can see swirling to the north here, coming into the saddle regions, north Hilo to Hamakua, south, right? So wrapping around. So really, it could go anywhere, and especially if we have larger concentrations coming out, it could really bump up a notch as well. So as usual, that's our main hazard, the main thing to be aware of. Oh, look, there's our monitoring sites that popped up. These are showing all in the green at present across the island. So yay, there it is. We have some other data sources as well for live air quality, starting with State Department of Health here. So here's all of our stations across the island chain, and zooming into our own island here, you see everything in the green, even though we have some higher value numbers. You can see the concentrations are increasing around different places. Earlier might have been in the yellow, as you see here in the Pahala area, but currently everything is in the green. And so you can see variable impacts as well with the gas. We also have this site, the Hawaii SO2 Index.info, which is focusing more so on the SO2 and PM 2.5 rather than other flavors of air pollutants. And this one does not want to give me data right now. So maybe something else is going on there. All right. Citizen Science Network, Purple Air, is perhaps a more reliable one and has the best density of coverage as well. So here you do see more of these dots, and you see there's plenty of yellow ones around. And remember, this one is only a PM 2.5 particulate matter of that size. So it can pick up things like dust and ash and things like that as well, beyond volcanic sources. So often in this Waimea area, you see either brush fires or just dust affecting the sensors as well. Although in the Kona area and South Kona, we do see this fog sometimes wrapping around and getting caught on the onshore-offshore pattern of wind there. And if you have not seen our wind regime in a while, here it is. In blue, the trade winds, dominant northeast pattern, with the winds coming and it would bring the gas from Kīlauea summit, which is here. This graphic is old, so Pu'o, when this was made, was putting out a gas cloud there, but our gas cloud today should actually be over here. And so you see that when trade winds blow, it blows southwest, guided by the slope of Mauna Loa here as well. And that's why it seems to wrap around. And then when it gets caught on the onshore, offshore, and the little green arrows here, just washing in and out as it's stuck in an eddy almost. Until they switch to Kona winds and these red, and then you see it reversing, and then we have all this gas potentially blowing into Hilo or nearby areas. So that's why it matters there. In nearby viewing sites at the national park, we can turn to the national park website. You see they show everything currently in the green. Let's just give it a refresh just in case. And there it is. Everything is still in the green. Although when you see this round gray circle, that means that the wind is very low, 6 miles an hour. So they're not predicting a strong plume dispersing away, but rather that gas potentially impacting this entire area. So if you are in a national park awaiting this eruption to begin, then be aware of any guidance and changing conditions. we can look back at the charts for the last 24 hours and see that mostly things are in the green. Earlier, there was strong trade winds blowing this gas southwest to Kahuku, and you see SO2 spiking Kahuku early this morning and a little bit last night as well. But that is it on this interest for the last 24 hours. And if we're lucky, we'll see the pattern we've seen recently where much of that gas gets blown up and away into the upper atmosphere and gets carried off. One of those high fountains shoot things really high. That sometimes happens. Rather than the low fountains where all the gas can get stuck closer to the ground and actually be able to move around to our community. So rather than get, as opposed to being shot up and injected away from us, where it gets caught in the upper atmosphere and float around. So that's where we look to our windy.com SO2 satellite layer, where you see the results of the previous SO2 gas clouds still lingering above our island and then mixing with all the other sources globally to show the pattern you see here. So that is our volcanic hazard summary with the gases. And we'll move on to our visual observations. And I'll show you guys a few time-lapse clips. I'll start off with, this is the V1 camera. This is a fast view of really the past week. So there was a little overflow right on Halloween evening, but most of them start on a 3rd. That's Monday morning early. And so here you see the fast sequence of that. That lava, very sluggish looking, pouring over this rim. We saw plenty of comments asking if this was some kind of change, but really it's just a continuing trend of more degassed lava. And of course, we are in the longest pause now, so we have an extended ramp up, and there could be more mixing of the material down below that's older with this fresher stuff that's trying to come up. So that was the V1. Here's the V3 once again, a little bit slower. As you can see, these south vent overflows early on, just producing a single channel, but as time goes on, overflows intensify. You start seeing the dome fountains within the actual pit and lava spreading in every direction from the cone here. That's coming up here right now. So it's probably worth me rewinding this to catch some of these frames to point out these lava domes. There's a little piece of one, right? There's a very small one right there. But one thing the USGS noted is there's not a whole lot of spattering happening while the doming is occurring. So there's another one right there. So this is not likely the gas-rich lava. It's still the gas-poor lava just welling up under pressure to make that small dome there. There's another one right there. Yeah, you can see this larger dome right there, but still with that lava shooting up as much, right? It's just being pushed out and spilling out and over. And so the USGS has called this gas poor plug of lava that's in the vents. And this is likely some mix of the lava that didn't get pushed out during the last episode. But also we're seeing from some data coming in from the USGS, we'll refer to later, that there seem to be remobilized crystals that were erupted in previous episodes. So that would mean lava within the crater that's piling in those layers in this, what was once was very solid, big lava lake, and it's now got a bunch of layers of lava and squishy stuff all within it. Those things could be potentially leaking back towards this conduit. And if you have that kind of mixing of that older degassed cooling lava that's had a chance to grow crystals and become more viscous, then you can have this. That would be one explanation for this extended ramp up of precursor activity we're seeing now. So let me just play this one more time. It goes pretty quick here. And you can see that sequence. South vent spilling up. This is a gas pistoning process. And what's happening is the gas is building up beneath that gas poor plug. And it still works its way out and it pushes it all out. And eventually you'd imagine if we can get rid of enough of this stuff fast enough, this gas poor plug, then you can relieve enough pressure that really foamy, gas-rich, frothy lava can start bubbling up and then induce those high fountains that we're all expecting to see sooner than later. And so there it is. We can see a similar view from the S2 camera. So there it is. The camera doesn't zoom in and out, so sometimes this is a little easier to follow. You see the glow from the south vent with those first overflows. North vent, you can't see directly, but you see the flows coming out in this area around the vent right over here. And here comes the 3 big pulses from the south vent through yesterday, followed by the north vent coming earlier this morning. So those are the time-lapse views. So we can zoom out a little more to the KW camera, this wide crater view here, and show you guys. You can see similar changing direction of wind. Sometimes the gas comes at the camera here. We had our first little overflow on Friday. Here come the ones from the south vent that take over from Monday. There they are, spilling a little further across the crater floor yesterday. And then by this morning, after the north vent overflows, so there we go last night, there's a north vent overflow. And then this morning, we see just gas coming out and no more lava during the daytime thus far today.
Hey, Phil, how impressive is that the overflows are reaching almost halfway across? Not widthwise, but just that linear section.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the last eruption, right? I mean, and I think
Right.
there's a couple of things going on there. One is there's a big slope here. It's not as evident from this angle. When I showed you guys a B1 earlier, let me pull the B1 back up here. And we showed you this gas, right? And if we're gonna zoom it way in and let it come, then yeah, this angle shows a little bit more clearly how much of a slope it's coming downhill. You actually see it making that kind of pattern, right? As opposed to just a straight line. Yeah, and so that hill, that slope it's on, has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger over time, right? It used to be that the vent was just a bump on a big flat, and now it's a bump on a big hill.
Mm-hmm.
And you do see that long.
Yeah, that's definitely a better angle to see how high that slope is off from the base of the caldera floor. That really gives that angle for that lava to flow down.
Yeah, and this is the angle that many visitors will get to see as well, as many of the viewing areas are on this eastern side of the crater. So that is something. And of course, I have it all the way zoomed out, and if you're actually there in person, you're not taking everything in all the time. You're focusing in one spot or zooming in, and you can actually walk quite a lot closer than this camera shows here.
Yeah, and that view from Kīlauea, you're looking out across the caldera, so you kind of get the split shot of it. You can really see the difference in heights.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are our, did I show you guys a thermal yet? Here's a thermal that goes along with that wide view camera from the KW. So not a lot of movement elsewhere on the crater floor, just focused on the vent area right in there. And after that first pulse on Friday, here's the pulses from early Monday morning. North to the front, there comes the south vent behind. The first of those longer overflows extending further and further. And then there's our north vent spillover this morning. And a cooling sense. And still some heat on those flows, but most of the heat is still at the vent area itself. So maybe we'll just give a quick check into the live cameras here. Is a V3 current view that degassing. Wind is blowing, looks a little bit more this way right now. Not quite as strong trades. And so here's a V2 camera from Volcano House area. Looking a little hazy there, maybe not the clearest views, depending on the moment. And the V1 camera, look at that, completely widened out at the present. So that's where the thermal comes in useful. Let's refresh this, current thermal view. Wider view from the KW camera. You can see why that zoomed into the vent view is so blocked off there. And one last one from the B1 angle there. And some cloud cover coming in too. Would makes a nice glow if it pops off tonight. But we'll have to wait and see, huh? So Lou, you got some clips for us of the activity we've observed over the past week?
Yeah, let's drop those up in there. Here we go. So this is obviously the south vent, right? And this vent is what we were all waiting for, to really see the doming. It was a great shot. And there's some things happening here. I've got it sped up about 20 times here to get through this. You can see the dome flowing, but in the bottom right there, Phil, you got your pen. You can draw those two vents, or two kind of weeping holes there where you see the lava tube, them coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, below that stream on the upper stream on the right. Yeah, I can't draw on your screen actually.
You can't get on my screen there. Yeah, so over there's two spots right there. that we picked up on. There was another spot that'll pop up here in a second that we saw. This was an absolutely amazing site over and over and over. And this is where we did a kind of an unofficial poll. We got about almost 600, like 591 people all thought that this was going to be the start of episode 36 as the way that it was going. Here's another shot. We can see the sun's coming up. It's in the morning. And you'll see another spot where lava comes right out of a little tube right there at the bottom.
Yeah, there it is. Leaking out. Yes, that thing's like a big sponge, right? There's little pathways and cracks and gaps you don't quite see until the lava starts oozing out of one. You're like, oh, clearly there's a hole right there.
So this is a non-lava shot, but this was interesting because we were talking about the oxidation, the colors that are all in the rock there. You gonna give a little talk on that real quick on what that is?
Yeah,
a lot of
well, so on the left, that reddish stuff. Yeah, I mean, our lavas are very rich in iron, which means that they can oxidize, or I like to call it rust. Like basically the iron is rusting, and then it's turning red. You know, and the oxidation, that rusting can happen really quickly if you have extra water and extra heat, which is why things rust more in the tropics. But in the tropics, on a volcano putting out hot steam, it goes extra fast, right? So even a regular gas has a lot of water content in it, besides the SO2 and CO2. So that's the process you see there that makes the red. Whereas the actual SO2 coming out and then depositing the sulfur is what makes the yellow colors, and that's what makes it really cool mix of the reds and then the yellows and all the different shades of brown that are different textures of lava flow, right? And quite often you see the really rough texture style flows be the darkest, and the really smooth pahoehoe flows being more reflective and shinier and lighter in color. And of course that changes with age, but everything you're looking at in this frame is like less than a month old, so really
this is all new.
Count that here. Yeah, so yeah, it's that faster processes, like like the steaming and the precipitation of sulfur that's giving those colors. So pretty cool, nice catch.
Yeah, that had to get up here when we were looking at it. Let's see what else I got on here for us. So here's another shot of it, just different time, earlier morning, different colors, had the south vent in the background. You see the sulfur to the right of the red up there. So here was something else we caught. So there was a lot of discussion on, we go back and forth. We have the north vent go off and the south vent going off, the north vent back and forth. And which one is actually going to be the start of episode 36? And one thing that we talked about was that we haven't seen them going at the same time. And this is the only time during any of this precursory that we had the north vent and then the south vent had an overflow at that same time. Really different, right? We haven't seen that. You can see I lined them up here. You have the north vent going and there's that south vent, and those times are matched, both overflowing. This was an interesting moment because usually we have a fountain at this point, something's pushing, but they were both kind of hanging out there.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, right? We saw really episode 34, the north and south vent shooting off together to great heights for the first time. And I think that was really the change where we saw basically where we've talked about before how this was originally one big crack that's a fissure. And out of that crack, you have different pathways coming up, and those lead to different vents. And clearly there was connection deep down, but that, something about that connection changed in episode 34, where they're now better connected, more well connected in some way, right? So that you're seeing more of this, whether it's alternating pattern or synchronization of it, right? And when we have an overflow happening, it's basically a giant gas bubble trying to push its way out. And so there's not any void in there. Whenever there's not gas in there, there's lava of some kind, whether it's the most recent lava or the one that's cooling from a day ago, or whatever, is still in there trying to move around and settle and all that. So that bubble is finding it easier to come out either one side or the other side, but not both together at the same time. And maybe that means the bubble isn't big enough quite yet also to push enough stuff out to then clear the way for all the fresh stuff to come out, right? So it's kind of building up more and more and more. The gas has to be coming from the fresher stuff, because that's, once you lose a gas, it's hard to get it back in a lava that's flown away. And then when you mix in any of this older lava into it also, then you're basically reducing how much gas you have on average for the lava too. So overall, there is something like that going on. It's better connected. And perhaps if they're better connected, the two of them, maybe there's a better connection to the stuff under the lake also, right? You're showing us all the little holes lava's oozing out of near the vent on top. Well, imagine in a lava down deep underneath all this stuff, there must be some pathways in there also. And maybe some of the older lava can then drain towards the conduit. And, you know, if that can happen more easily, then that could slow this whole process, right? You know, reduce how much gas is actually, how much of a plug is coming out at once, because the gas is having to push out more than one source of stuff. It's doing more work. So all that can take longer and lead to these patterns we've seen.
And you can see, take a look up at the top of the screen. You can see that south vent up there. I mean, completely full and spattering nonstop. I mean, there was gas, but like you said, there just wasn't enough to keep going.
Yeah, it's the ratio of the gas to how much gunk you have in there, right? I'm calling this really cool lava spilling over gunk, right? So forgive me, Pele, right? But that's compared to what's coming next. It's not really that fresh, hot, frothy stuff, right? So, yeah, really fascinating.
Yeah. Next one up is some of our viewers up on the mountain up there and got this while they're up there. Nice day shot. It's from Lauren. Kind of nice to always see something non the USGS camera. You know, see what everybody else is doing up there. And there's a shot from Kīlauea, kind of I was talking about. You can see the levels there, the slope created.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, people are in town have a shorter window. I mean, there's plenty to see. It's just maybe not exactly what you have in mind, but even that looks really epic. And
yeah,
I go back to when I used to hike 6 miles to look for that one pixel of glow.
Yeah,
like, look, she's alive. There's actually something that's not black over there. It's slightly orange.
Right. We always we constantly have to remind ourselves that a year and a half ago, we would have a completely different feeling about this. You know, with everybody so tuned into fountains, this seems to be minimalized. Is that maybe the right way to say it? You know, it's everybody's waiting for that fountain. But a year and a half ago, we were sprinting for this.
Yeah, if it was me, yeah, I guess if I came from across the world and I didn't see that fountain, I'd be disappointed as well. But like, this is really that's still epic.
Yeah, this fountaining or the overflow of the south vent is absolutely incredible. To be up there and see that is incredible. Yeah, we're just
spoiled. These are glory days of eruptions in Kīlauea, what it comes down to, right? I was thinking earlier, like in the shower, right? I did tours for a long time. We used to talk about like Kīlauea as being one of the grand eruptions of the summit.
Yeah,
people are not going to care about Kīlauea so much anymore now, because look at what we got.
Right.
In comparison.
Yeah.
Right. Kīlauea's time in the spotlight is kind of probably gone now because of what's happened at Kīlauea summit for the last almost year now.
So there's our observations for episode 36 coming up.
Right on. Thanks, Lou. Appreciate that. You want to take us into our community corner?
Yeah, can do. Let's see here if I can find it. There we go. All right. Let's see what's happening around the neighborhood. Oh, hey, Dane. I got something in this for you, so I'm glad you popped in here.
I bet you
do. Let me find it on my screen. Here we go. Are we there? There we go. All right. Up at the park, typical closures, nothing new to report other than what's been closed for the last several weeks due to the ongoing situation up there. The Kahuku unit is closed. If you're here to go check it out, just know that our gates are closed there. But the main park is open up there. There's that on the Kahuku unit being closed. I left this in here. I didn't want to take this off quite yet. If you are here and you're interested in alerts, our Civil Defense has some QR codes there. You can scan for the hazard impact map or the Civil Defense Agency public alerts. 888-777. You can also text that to them. The volcano house is open. It's your source for water and food, and an amazing place to check out the eruption when it happens, or just these episodes. You can see them from Volcano House. Everybody seems to gather there, and it's become a widely popular place to charge your phone. Lava viewing is everywhere. Well, I was talking to some people in this last week. Waldron's Ledge, which is right down from there, just a short walk. You can walk the trail or the road, and you can see the volcano without a bunch of people around you. So check that out. There's the Welcome Center. There's water up there. The KMC area has parking. Look for that flag. Hook a right, and you'll find parking all over that place. If you keep going forward, you'll get up to Kīlauea Overlook and Waikahuna. There's regular bathrooms at the top. The Kīlauea Overlook parking fills up fast, so know that it is tight in there. Try not to park on the side of the road. Word on the street is there are rangers up there citing people for illegally parking. I did notice when I left episode 35, there was a tow truck coming down. I don't think it was to tow somebody for illegally parking, but citation is just as bad. So park where you're supposed to while you're up there. There's your lava viewing everywhere across the caldera. You can't go wrong. We see here. There we go. This is actually from Kīlauea Iki parking. Great shot. That's during the high fountains of episode 35. You can actually hear them from there. You can't feel any heat from there, but you can definitely hear them just fine. And stay hydrated. Bring your own water. Visitors to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park should bring their own drinking water during their visit. The KVC water station is currently unavailable due to renovations. A new bottle filling station will be installed someday. In the meantime, bottled water can be purchased at Volcano House. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's more reserved than what you normally come up with.
Anything wrong there?
It is pretty small on the screen I'm looking on. Besides, everybody has their trunk up in the same fashion.
Well, you know, tailgating. Nothing.
What am I missing?
Back of the car where the lady's looking in it. There's two things on there.
Oh, I can't see. It just looks like a green swash.
All right, one of them is right here.
An iPad?
I don't know what that is. It looks like an iPad / rear light that went wonky on us.
Well, and the bottles are huge too, I guess. You know.
Yeah. And this, I'm assuming, is Gatorade or lemonade, not water. I don't know.
You can bring both dogs.
You know, I don't know if your dog drinks
That's
Gatorade
a lot of
or
water.
not. Yeah, a lot of water. Got to keep stay hydrated at the park. Exposure is a real thing. Bring your hat and your sunscreen. Drink plenty of water. Wind and sun exposure at the summit can be intense and unforgiving. And these types of precursory days, some of you are up there for 12, 16 hours. You go from 6 or 8 hours in the daytime with wind and sun, and then all of a sudden the sun goes down. It's 4,000 feet, drops down into the high 50s right now. It's going to be cold. So stay prepared. And the park says safety is your responsibility. That is on the NPS website itself. There's your closures. You can hike to them. Just be aware that you can't drive. I wouldn't even try that phone number right now. It's not going to get you anywhere. There's the parking situation I was talking about that you should not be doing because they will cite you if they are up there. Besides for that, it's extremely difficult to get in and out for everybody, not just the people on the road, but if you're parked there, you may go into the ditch. Lock your stuff up with limited rangers. That's more opportunity for people to make your vacation or your experience bad. So lock your valuables up. And let's get into what's going on. Big Island Press Club has the Torch of Light Scholarship Luncheon and Auction going on December 13th from 11 to 1. There's a fee for that, and it's a BYOB. Bring your own beverage. It's pretty normal. The let's see, Dane, you were at the Smoke It Up, a week ago, right? And here we go with the Korean Natural Farming for Piggies workshop. Certified instructors Drake and Debbie will teach KNF techniques for raising odor-free, low-maintenance pigs using natural composting systems. The These events are new. This is the second one that's going on. The first one was a great success. I saw all kinds of posts on Facebook about it. So if you are here and you're interested in something like that, there is the tiny URL down below. Astro Day, we will be there ourselves this Saturday, November 8th from 10 to 3. Come check us out and all the different exhibits that are going on out there, put on by Mauna Kea Observatories. Learn about science in Hawaii. We're going to be there. We will take a picture. Dane, are you up for pictures this weekend?
No, I thought you were signing up for face painting.
I'll get into that. Just hold on.
What's up,
Bill?
Phil?
You want to jump in here?
Oh, muted.
Audio.
Yeah, just to emphasize, it is Saturday, November 8th in 2025. It looks like we got a 2023 flyer up there.
Oh, I do, don't I? Disregard the 3.
It looks good though, and
it was a nice
the 7th in October, and
it's a nice flyer.
So on the left looks good. Yeah, Saturday, November 8th, 10 to 3, Kona Commons
go.
Shopping Center. There you go.
Thank you. A little bit more astronomy. If you're not in the Kona side, over here to November 6th, that's late. That's tonight, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Hilo Town Tavern. You can get down there and talk some cosmic surf reports when stars crash and all that stuff. If you're into astronomy, I have two people that actually emailed me and asked me about this. I've never been, but if you are into a fun night of astronomy, go check it out. I thought I'd throw that in there. Here we go, Dane. Do you have your robe, your shield? What are you taking this year? Hear ye, hear ye, 1 week hence.
We were going to go and we were going to do a whole thing about volcanoes and times of Renaissance, but Astro Day, we have to attend. So maybe next year.
We were set. Astro Day came up onto us late, and we had to do that. We have to do Astro Day.
We just got to.
This was our calling right here. Next year, I hope they see us there. Step back in time at the Honoka's Renaissance Fair. Enjoy a day of medieval revelry, costumes, games, and local vendors. Check this out. Cell service can be unreliable, so bring cash. An ATM will be available inside Dragon's Hall. The gymnasium.
Somebody's saying episode 36 starts 10 a.m. on Saturday. That'd be our luck, wouldn't it? That'd be our luck.
Yep. It's coming. This is a little bit early. This isn't until December 6th, but I'm putting this out here because there are a lot of parades and a lot of people make plans on which parades they're going to go to and actually participate in. And our friends at Space have this going on. We'll talk more about this as we get closer, but I just want to put this out here in case you are interested. There's the information. It's not until December 6th, but I know that there are a bunch of people in Puna that love to attend this. And we are having our end of year fundraiser. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we've actually marched in that parade before, haven't we? And we were asked to do so again. I'm not sure if we'll make it this year, but I don't know. Maybe let us know if you want us to go. What you're gonna give us when you see us there.
Yes.
Not the organizers. They don't need to do us anything.
We could do that. It's a Saturday.
Although we could all use a Saturday off, I'm sure. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. What do people think?
Are you guys even going to be here on the 6th, or is it?
Oh yeah. Okay. And if I wasn't, I would make plans. If you were going to dress up and be in that parade, I would not leave. I would be here. 100%.
Getting a horse.
You'll get
I'll
a
fall
horse.
off. So
We'll find us a horse. Heck yeah. All right. Well, that's something to look forward to for us, right? Right on. All right. And last piece is here. It's our end of the year fundraiser. We are just around $2,600 right now on our fundraiser. So we're at halfway. We could use some help. So you can go ahead and donate at hveri.org/donate. And this will support our volcano education and like the broadcast that you see tonight, our youth leadership programs, all of our AI and digital resilience training, and will help build a safer, smarter, more connected community in here around Hawaii. So all of our links are in there. Just made sure they're there. hveri.org/donate. Dane just threw it up. Appreciate you guys all that have been supporting. We have a bunch in there. We're going to go ahead and mention in a few minutes. And if you'd like to sign up for our email notification list for when episode 36 may start, Dane and I may be pulling over on saddle on Saturday to send out the email, but we will get it out to you. Go ahead and sign up there. It's also for our HVERI subscriber list and get our email. So hveri.org/subscribe. There we go, Dane.
All right. Well, yeah, we wanted to thank everybody that tuned in today, but start off with thanking County of Hawaii through the 5i grant program, helping support this program, as well as support for our digital resilience and youth development program. So mahalo to them. But really, we rely on the viewers like you, the likes, subscriptions, the shares, all that stuff really does help keep the digital doors open, as we like to say, and all that. The likes and subscriptions, they really do help. And if you do feel so inclined, we do take the donations, as Lou stated, over on hveri.org/donate. But we also have a donation drive running through Google, the YouTube. So all of your donations there are 100% come to us, which is awesome. So either way, if you are so inclined, we appreciate all the support we get. All right. Well, thank you, Lou. And
Hey, do you want to read off those super chats and donations?
Oh,
while we're
yeah.
here?
Let's go ahead and do that. So we had a $10 coming over from Raventhorn, with a longtime supporter there. Appreciate it. Anonymous $20 donation. Appreciate that, Anon. Then Gary B with a big $150 donation. Appreciate the support there, Gary.
I just dropped another one from Mark Hardman over on our donation platform for $50. Thanks, Mark.
And another anonymous 20 in there too. Appreciate all that. Here's Mark's. All right. Well, appreciate all the support. And with that, I think we can get into the back half. We will talk to you later, Lou, and get Phil back in here.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. All right. Oh, there we go.
All right. Thanks, Dane.
Yep.
And thanks, Lou. So let's pick up with our monitoring update here. So just letting you guys know we are watching the event. Maybe I can pull it back up here. Let's see. Just gotta find the right window now, but there's our V3 view. Starting to see a little bit of glow as it's getting dark. And our V1 view, where you see that also, but still pretty obscured over there. So let's jump into the updates that we've had from the USGS over the past week, which are all coming through text and daily updates nowadays because of the still ongoing government shutdown, which is prompting this message at every update now as well. So yeah, starting back on Friday last week, Halloween evening. So Friday morning update. They basically are still talking about the conditions we were experiencing last week. And then moving, so one thing that they were talking about last week was the alternating period of glow between the two vents and the trimmer being consistent with that. And then towards about a week ago, becoming a little less consistent with that. And that continued at the end of last week with that not consistent alternating pattern, right? So even though we had a better established connection between events, it's still transient. It's not permanent. It seems to come and go. And so there are times where the tremor does correspond, times where it doesn't. It just tells us things are still constantly changing and evolving, and they're even day to day. So that was the status on Friday last week. So by Saturday morning, we get the update of the one short overflow from the north vent overnight. That came for 3 minutes at 9:25 p.m. With otherwise glow on there. They do also note that they did change some of their displays on the camera as if you're a live stream watcher. So there was a different appearance of the cameras for a while there. But let's jump forward to Sunday here, where they're still seeing glow. The glow is getting stronger, and you're getting minor spattering. And at that point, they narrowed the forecast window to most likely November 5th through 7th. So here we sit on the 6th, right in the middle of that, and it's looking like it's possible, but their outside window was until the 8th at that point in time. So that was the update on Sunday. And then coming to Monday morning is when we start seeing that resumption of overflows. So here they put in a little table with the first 12 overflows, that first one on Halloween evening, and then all the ones afterwards in the morning of November 3rd. And you see they're all, except for one, less than 15 minutes, as they went off from the north vent at that point in time. So come to the next day on Tuesday. They note here in the previous 24 hours, there were 14 overflows at the south vent and 10 more at the north vent. But it did note later down here, if we look at the analysis section, they mentioned the gas pour plug. And where is it in here? Maybe it's even the next day here, but they note that the north vent shuts off. Maybe it's just the next day, up into the next day update here. North vent hasn't had updates or hasn't had overflows since early in the morning of the 4th. So picking up the top, yesterday on Wednesday, the 5th, they note all the overflows have come from the south vent since just before 3 a.m. on October 4th. Inflation slows. Overflows that are repeating indicate the start of the episode is close, and they still have that window through November 8th up until yesterday. And then also yesterday, they note that there were 3 large overflows lasting up to an hour and 20 minutes. That's what Lou was showing you guys earlier. The 3 were the largest and longest lasting of the 14 that occurred since the previous day. They differed from the previous passive plant overflows because they had well-developed hemispherical dome fountains that were 15 to 30 feet, 5 to 10 meters in diameter. So both the passive pond overflows and the dome fountains had very little spattering until drainback, indicating that mostly degassed magma is being erupted at this time. So they're still talking about this gas pour plug getting pushed out there. And otherwise, intermittent glow and north vent being quiet as of yesterday's update. And the south vent's dominant, basically, from that point, from the morning of the 4th through yesterday up until this morning, where there were 3 small overflows from midnight this morning from the north vent with strong glow and minor spattering from both vents. The last overflows from the north vent near 4 a.m. this morning. They do note the stalling of summit inflation over the past several days, lengthening the forecast window. So now we're extending it to the 11th for that full forecast window there. So that's really it. I could come and dig through here. I'm going to generally note that they seem to be putting updates on the tremor pattern, the glow pattern, and trying to make any associations between all those things. But lots of changes, and good to see that they're giving us as much information as possible through their only possible means, which is these daily updates, which are not hamstrung by the federal shutdown. But that is it, basically, here. They're still monitoring. They're letting us know they're watching what they're watching, but they can't tell us any more than this at this point in time. So we still watch and wait. And the cameras, now the streams are up, so that's great. And we'll know when it starts shooting out, just like they do. They, of course, are going to watch the signals building up to that, but they can't say anything until we put out an update. So moving on, we also have the Mounts project that catches satellite data. And we like to look at these INSAR interferograms, that basically the satellites coming through and shooting a radar beam, measuring the distance to the ground, and doing it again over and over again, and taking the differences in those measurements and making these plots. So we do have a most recent plot. This was released from Friday, going back to the previous 5 days. And what you see here is a couple of things. One is there's a bullseye of inflation centered in this green area right in here. So red to blue to green. Red to blue to green is towards the radar. So this is coming up, rising up inflation here. That same center that we've seen in the past, here's last week's plot, for example, same center, same pattern of inflation. But unlike last week, where we only saw this kind of speckled area on the main lava surface itself that was adjusting and settling and all that, this week we also see some of that scattered texture all the way downwind of the main vent area. And we haven't had an episode in the last 5 days, so this is not fresh tephra falling down. But if we go back to 2 captures ago, from the 19th going back to the 13th, where we did catch episode 35, this is the fallout zone of episode 35 right there, right? And a lava lake itself right in there, right there. So I'm gonna just draw that and quickly pull us back, and you see it's the same area roughly of tephra that's showing this pattern today. So more likely we've had settling of the tephra in this area, whether it's just natural going down or whether there was some wind involved. It's hard to tell. I know there have been some periods of stronger trade winds through the week, so maybe that is what pushed all the stuff through this wide area, the stuff that was still the freshest and able to settle the most, showing that pattern. That's over here in this really bare area. Everywhere else on this map, this whole side over here, this is usually all trees moving around between one capture and the next. So you can ignore all that. It's not really volcanic, and that's part of the background and information and context of being able to read these images, and that's just for Kīlauea Summit, what I can share right here. So that's our satellite data. We also have all the signals coming through. So here's our laser pointing down at a lava surface, and it's just showing small variations, likely related to the changes in temperature and the equipment itself, the measuring equipment and the mount that it's on, and all that stuff that kind of combines. So just minor variations, really. Looking at the tilt, we can see that the summit has had this longer inflation over the week and stalled here the last couple of days, whereas a line in green at Pool Crater on the Middle East Rift is showing no association, just a steady decline across that same period. We don't believe magma is really getting in there in any significant capacity. Earthquake counts, our average background is about 30. So that's right in there. You can see that's we're about on average, below average part of the week and above average part of the week, it's average. And here it is, depth versus time. You can see that that's the natural clustering, as earthquakes don't occur just on a schedule. They come in clusters, it seems like. So you get these groupings of events here that then can cause these fluctuations up and below our average. So continuing to the map for the past week, summit earthquakes are a little less than we've seen in recent weeks, but still showing that building pressure under the summit. That's evident with these longer pauses we're seeing now. We're still seeing movement into the south flank in the slow area, especially south of the summit. And we're still seeing Pahala earthquakes. It's really nothing that unusual or really abnormal to point out really so much here. Zooming out to the last month of time and using your laser again, all those little variations we saw were all those little wiggles all through here. So this zoomed out view is a little more accurate and conveys a message more clearly that we're basically at a level that maybe slightly settled after the episode was over back in October, mid-October. So we're waiting in the next pulse of lava, and then this will jump up again with some new thickness of lava that gets put in place underneath this laser on the crater floor. All right, the last month of tilt, so you can see the fuller pattern of recovery here. And really with this going on close to 3-week pause now, not quite. We're only getting one event showing in our month-long plot and a long, slower buildup than we've seen for previous episodes. And this might be related to the fact that we're also putting out much more lava during our recent episodes 35 and 34.
We do have some questions in here if you want to try and take those.
Yeah, we got something relevant.
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry if some of this is repeating what you just said, but is that the tilt drop on Kīlauea mean lava is moving into voids in the ground, or is there another reason?
No, it's that it's moving out of the ground into the surface, and so the pressure in the ground itself, and in fact, like a tilt of the ground, it's almost like popping a blister or something, right?
I think it might mean these potholes that we keep seeing. like in the one right at the top of the tilt more recently. Like it's accelerating and then
Here.
drops off. Yeah, that little thing.
Yeah, I mean, so it basically means the ground has stopped swelling, which means that it's found it's either not able to tilt anymore. I mean, it's a capacity. One interpretation, but it could also mean that lava is moving into voids, or that it's not just the lava, but it's the combination of lava and gases are super important, right? The gases are what's building up the pressure and building up the froth, and it probably does do some of the tilting and push some of the tilt as well. So if you have a gas able to come out more easily, perhaps, or maybe you're venting off some of this gas poor lava. It's a good question. It's without really knowing the geometry in there, right? We've talked about how these things are better connected, worse connected, and it's something to do with that, right? I don't have a better answer than to discuss it like that.
Right. There is one more here in the same ballpark. I've noticed that the deflation levels get steeper and steeper post eruption. So, what does it mean? Does it mean that magma chamber is gradually emptying more and more during each episode?
Yeah. So the deflation. So that there's two things going on, right? Like the actual rate, like how steep is a line itself, and if it's it's hard to tell when it's so steep already here.
Right.
But we have the volumes of lava the USGS reports, and we also have the amount of time things take, so we can know how much lava gets out and what amount of time. And we know that the last two episodes has come out twice as fast as all the ones before that, which means the line has been actually twice as steep the past two drops as well. For sure, right? So it's hard to see in this 1 month. I got to get down to the 3 month to really show that off here. So moving to that down here, there it is, right? You can see it's hard to tell, but slightly less steep that one than this one coming straight down, right? If you look at the overall pattern since the eruption actually began, the other thing that maybe the viewer is asking is how far down the troughs actually get, right? If you look at the bottomless of these things, they do seem to maybe be coming down a little more, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's lots of different factors coming into it. It's, like all of our modern data, this is why we're trying to look at all the different things in concert, because any one of them is affected by 3 or 4 or 5 variables, and it's hard to tell what is most importantly affecting the signal there, right? So.
Yeah. All right. Well, that gets me through the questions that are kind of about this recent tilt activity and some of the nuances around it. Thank you for the questions.
Yeah, some interesting patterns here, and yeah, it's hard to really know for sure what's happening, right? We look more for the trends and all that, right? And we have seen this overall. What you'd expect is an eruption to have a high tilt and then to level off like over time, something like this, right, down to a 0. And so we actually saw it become fairly stable, and maybe it is decreasing a little bit. Maybe it is starting to, on net, release more pressure than it's building up, right? Which is kind of this whole balance that exists. And one thing we'll talk about here soon is that the USGS scientists believe there is fresher, hotter magma coming into the volcano from below that's keeping this sustainable for this episodic activity to continue. And so if that rate coming in is matching what's coming out, then you can stay level. But if you're getting more out than is coming in, then you do expect a long-term decrease and decline of the line, if that makes sense, right? That's one of the variables, right? And other things like the south flank can move out of the way, and that can change how much pressure the volcano can actually feel and how much the ground tilts. All those things can complicate, but the whole point of our going through the data is to learn what the volcano can do, and how it might behave, and not to necessarily give you like a hard and fast, this is absolutely what it's doing right now, but rather to have you guys learn how to think about it and what things it might do, and maybe you have a better theory than we might come up with about what might be happening. So that's the tilt there. And lava depth has been marching up over time with each episode. Earthquake rates are still low, as we pointed out in our summary, and GPS still extending. And this is maybe 13, 14 centimeters. It's about 6 inches there in the last almost 3 weeks. So it seems like it's stretching out further with each episode, more and more over time. And that's part of why I'm bringing up the soft flank movement as well. And so that's all affected here as well. So on the rift, we don't have data coming in, but we point out the tilt that is still in decline. And so really, there's no reason for concern for people on the lower east rift at this point in time. Until we see some change, which someday will come, we're not seeing it yet. So okay, going to 5 years, we'll maybe leave off of that. And what I will do is just pop up some of our views of the seismographs here. Here's this sampling of some of the ones. Let's look at the rim. And you can see that some of these tremor patterns are not the same as we were seeing last week. It's not quite as clear what's going on there, right? And then tilt, let's give us a refresh once again. And looking at the 2-day tilt, we don't always do this because it's so zoomed in and it sometimes gets swamped by other noise. And what you can see really well here is this ongoing tremor still happening. And our more recent, since noon, we've had this little inflation trend, right? But we're really zoomed in. So if that's minus 0.2, that's 0.4, that's half a microradian so far today, which is actually better than we did most of the previous day. So closer and closer, we'll wait and see. And maybe it's dark enough to get a peek in again now. See our glowing vents from the V3 camera there. V1, had a little bit of spatter, perhaps, lava on the back wall. And a further away view from the V2 camera. Not seeing much across the crater in this webcam, at least.
Hey, Phil, can you jump back over to that V1 cam? I got a question that's come in. The VOG is given the illusion that it's actually being sucked back into the vent. Is that actually happening?
It looks like it, huh? I doubt it. I think it's probably just the wind's changing. Yeah, but I'm looking at the same webcam as you are. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, it does give that illusion. I don't know if gas retracts back in, isn't it? At some, I mean, either it's magma.
I think it's just it's like drafting type of thing. The gas is rolling over the object, but then there's that illumination, and just afterwards it ends. But if you really look, it proceeds afterwards, like it's just going around along the ground, and it's a lighting effect.
Yeah. Yeah, we've never seen lava or the gas sucked into the vent in the daytime ever yet. So that would be what I lean towards.
Right. Just another question from the audience there that I throw out there to you.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
And it's, we've seen that we get a lot of questions that ultimately relate to how different things look between the day and the night, and it is huge differences.
Yeah.
Like hard to state just how big and drastic they are.
Yeah, for sure. So let me jump over to some of the data we can pull out from the AGU abstracts and sort of highlight a couple of things here. So all these are talks that have not happened yet, or presentations. So this is going to be happening in December, but this is all public, what they've submitted. And they submitted things that they think are happening, right? So for example, this one is from Dr. Liz Gallant, UH-HVO, who we know well. And so there, she's talking about the eruptions from 2020 to 2025. And here's what I wanted to emphasize. They show that the composition of the shallow magma reservoir has become slightly more magnesium rich. That means that may indicate episodic pulses of hotter magnesium rich magma into the shallow system. That's basically the long and short of it, right? With a trend of increase for the most recent eruption increasing over time as well. Yeah, so other things here, for example, they indicate from olivine that there's storage of olivines down at 1 to 2 kilometers depth in a hollow magma reservoir. And within the 2020 to 2022 passive lava lake that are subsequently re-erupted in later events. And so that's where we have this information coming in, that they also believe that there is remobilization of this older lava into this conduit system to allow them to re-erupt out and be collected on the surface during this current activity. Right, so that's interesting. That remobilization combined with episodic pulses of hotter magma into the shallow system. So, and it's not just one place that we see this. So here's another, this one's going to be a poster by undergrad Lycan Forster at Hilo as well. We've presented at AGU before. And similar patterns here, looking at the different eruptions since 2020. They are noting the increase in temperature of magmas from December to July, noting that the tephra samples, primarily the scoria reticulite and Pele's hairs and tears, preserve that hottest magma signature compared to lava flows, and that those may be possibly incorporating other components more so. So they've noted that there's a wide range of that heat signature within lava flows, and even more with the lake ooze-outs, with the ooze-outs showing abundant crystal clots of plagioclase and clinopyroxene. Those are just two common minerals that you find here, and they're in the lava all the time, but are they macroscopic where you can't see them, or are they growing to 2 millimeters in size? If you have a bunch of clumps of 2-meter crystal clots, then you can imagine the whole thing's going to flow a lot less easily, right? It's going to be more viscous, and so that's part of it as well, right? We're seeing crystal growth in that lava before it's being forced out. So, also interesting thing to note there. I won't dig into more. There's way more to come out of there, but one last thing I'll point out of this most relevant is this abstract. Tracking fountain heights with time-lapse cameras. So they're using the cameras that we're all looking at as well to also capture height and behavior of fountains. Right? So they're recording it at the sub-minute intervals that USGS has recorded. We're getting the web version updates every few minutes at best. And so one thing that they note here is earlier episodes had lower fountains and more variable behavior. Eventually growing up until episode 29, which is when this was actually written here. Let's see here. An inverse correlation has been identified between fountain height and width, with taller events exhibiting narrower fountain profiles relative to events with shorter heights. And so sometimes a bigger base and shorter height, and sometimes a narrower and it's skinnier, and that's just the whole nozzle, as we describe it, for the fountain of lava there. So other interesting stuff here, but I will stop that pause right there. There are some other things to highlight, but maybe we'll leave those for next week.
Right.
What's that, Dane?
So just some teasers for AGU that's coming up.
Yeah, hopefully we'll hear more. I don't know that the USGS is banned from going to AGU if their government's shut down or not. I mean, you'd imagine that even an individual could go and present. So I'm not sure how all that works, right? But hopefully we'll get more information. We'll have a chance at AGU, and we'll have another chance at Volcano Awareness Month coming up in January. Fingers crossed, that happens. Something changes by then, right? Hopefully our longest shutdown ever doesn't triple in length.
Come on.
So, here's hoping anyways. Yeah, so there are some other things, but I will move on now to the earthquakes to kind of wrap us up for this week here. So, okay, my earthquake map reset. So you're going to get to see me have to reset this default version, which takes me, I'm not sure someone can count how many clicks I need to do this every time to get the background I want, to get the earthquakes to be the only thing I want to see. I don't want to see any of this other stuff. And I want to see.
The map is robust. It just, takes some configuration to get usable.
It was set up before where you actually was saving the settings in the URL, and then something
Right.
changed, unfortunately. So well, I'll just once again point to the government issues and leave it at that.
Yep.
Earthquake colors, I'm going to color it by depth there, and I want to filter these just for the last week, which means I need to put in my custom range, ending today and starting a week ago. And now here's a map I wanted to show you of the last week of earthquakes, colored by depth, so you can see the pattern here. And let's see if I can make it a little bigger. So there. Here's a cluster of earthquakes on the side of Mauna Loa, led by a 3.6, 8 kilometers, 5 miles down, right there, in the mid crustal range there. The reds are shallower, so there's a shallower event here at the summit, some on this northeast flank where we've seen this activity ramping up first, as that's the part that interacts with Kīlauea more. Kīlauea summit earthquakes in red, south flank in orange and red here, and then the Pahala events in blue, with these other blue events being settling events elsewhere on the island. So nothing too exciting there. We'll turn to the past week of events. There's our 3.6 highlighted once again, 5 miles down. The next biggest was 2.9 offshore Hilo. Also, that one was quite deep, 26 miles, settling event. And below that, everything's 2.6 and lower, so I won't get into the weeds with that. So those are the earthquakes, and it's worth turning to Mauna Loa now, because these events on Mauna Loa flank have caught people's attention naturally, and so let's just dive into that a little bit more. We did mention the monthly update from the USGS does note this increase in earthquakes, but still within background levels. Right? Total 151 events, magnitude 1 and smaller, beneath the summit, as well as 3 magnitude 2s and 1 magnitude 3. Data from GPS show only minor inflation beneath the summit, still replenishing the reservoir system. Southwest Rift is at background, and nothing else is noteworthy here. So looking at the signals, here is tilt for the past week. We see a lot of this daily variation at that very high elevation site that's very sensitive to these effects. So we're looking at the longer term trends, which also have cycles we got to filter out. So it's hard to see anything really robust in this data set right here for the week. Depth versus time for the earthquakes. There it is, going down and across. And our cluster of one big event and several small aftershocks. Here is the last month of tilt where we can see a little bit better, right? So maybe this overall pattern of inflation might have a little bit extra juice right in here, or maybe have an extra signal, and it could be that this is a magma signal of filling of the summit reservoir. That's a little, perhaps, but that would mean that the tilt meter is more sensitive than it used to be, because we haven't seen tilt signals at Mauna Loa summit until just before the 2022 eruption. And at that time, we had way more earthquakes, so it's not quite clear if this is just some natural little variation or if it's something more significant than that. We would need the USGS to speak up to really know that with more confidence. But here is that jump in earthquakes per day of the last week, this little lump right there. And you can see, compared to some days you only had one event, then it's easy to get 100 and, what was it, 100 or 75% increase in events if you are starting from 1 or 2 or 3 average, right? So there is depth versus time, mostly having the shallow summit events, but seeing that northwest quadrant start to activate does suggest that there is more magma filling the volcano, which we already knew given the length of the caldera extension and the rising of its ground level as well. Earthquakes per week, there is that bump over the last month. You can see that we haven't had quite that many, but we're really still peaking at less than 50 per week. So on the time depth, you can see there's been events across this entire depth range, but they're getting a little bit more dense right in here, but not crazily so, right? It's not like we're looking at the map for the past 5 years or something like that. So 5 years, there is the earthquakes building up, and right before the eruption at over 1,300, over 1,200 per month right there. So that would be 300 per week. And we're talking about 50 being our peak right now. And they're relatively speaking, that 5-year depth time plot where you see so many events plotted over each other, you can barely see, you see much more black than you see actually a red circle. And so starting to get a little bit more density here at the end, but all very, very small stuff that doesn't even compare to what you saw over here. It actually looks similar to what you saw post-eruption when it was still recovering early on. And we've seen these injections of lava from depth with tracking earthquakes getting shallower, and we have not had any of those recently. So we know the magma has come into the system, sometimes with more data noise, like the earthquakes here, and maybe sometimes with less of that, but is still coming in, and that's what's causing the pressure here up at the top. So earthquakes for the last week, plotting as such, with our northwest quadrant events, summit events for the past month looking pretty similar because the past week did add many of those numbers there. But for the whole past year, we're not adding a whole lot when you look at that way. So that's how that looks. And GPS extending and rising upwards, suggesting magma filling with lava. So, and here it is, relatively speaking, right, what that rate looks like since the eruption and its recovery. So, not sure what's going on over here. There's some noise going on in data over here, but all right, that's Mauna Loa data and a view of Mauna Loa earlier today.
Phil, I got a question for you before you get off of Mauna Loa that came in on one of the comments from one of the videos that we posted, and it's the age-old question that we see from Gary Vivieros. Says, with the Mauna Loa earthquakes, is there a split to the magma channel that is shared between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa?
Yeah, so good question. We think that the Pahala hotspots feeding the 3 active volcanoes, which are Mauna Loa, Kīlauea, and formerly Loihi, Kamehameha Loa offshore. That's not Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea, we believe, has actually been disconnected, detached from that hotspot source. So it still has a feeder, it still has magma trapped in that whole crustal system that can cool and evolve and remobilize and those kind of things, but it's not being added fresh stuff like Mauna Loa and Kīlauea is now, right? So Mauna Kea can still well erupt, but it's not going to be the same kind of eruption. It's not going to have the same hot magma that we're talking about as Mauna Loa and Kīlauea can at present.
There you
That's
go.
the best of our knowledge right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And next week I'll pull up some of the AGU talks about the more processing of data from Pahala and what might the reservoirs look like and what are the pathways of magma and all that. Is still an area of active research still today, right? So that's why I say best of our knowledge and the Pahala hotspot and where that's going. But Mauna Kea, we're pretty sure is not part of that system. It's just more like how does that system itself split? How does it split from Pahala to the 3 volcanoes? What are the other pathways into those volcanoes? What are the pathways in those volcanoes in the shallow system? How does a summit connect to the east rift on Kīlauea even? It's still a question that keeps popping up all the time, every single year. So it might be because it changes every year. We might not know that yet. So that's part of the other part of it also is things can be very dynamic, especially on Kīlauea, Mauna Loa, and Kamehameha Loa offshore. So speaking offshore, maybe one last thing to do here. I know we're right at the end of our time, but just I'll add this as a special presentation version here today that we're going to touch on the USGS volcanic activity notice and aviation notice as well for IE Seamount. This is in the Northern Mariana Islands. So this is not quite our typical purview here, but they note signs of unrest have been observed routinely in satellite data over the past few weeks. Plumes of discolored water observed drifting up to 1 mile away from the volcano in satellite images. October 20th, 21st, 26th, 27th, and November 5th. Retrospective analysis shows weak plume activity consistent beginning September 21st. following sporadic observations from August to September. No significant activity detected from the direction and the hydroacoustic array. This is the best they have, is listening underwater for signs of lava moving or explosions, eruptions, and they haven't heard anything. But they are seeing visually this big plume drifting through the water. So they have noted past plumes without clear signals as well. They did cause this to raise the alert level to yellow advisory. That's because the volcano has shallowed over the course of previous eruptions. It's now only 164 feet below sea level. And the fact that they don't have anything very close by means they can't forecast any eruption that might break the water surface, which is possible through a large explosion in that area. And thus this precautionary VAN and VONA combination here, right? Even an air warning for anyone flying over this area that, hey, if this thing does explode, we can't tell you that far in advance, so just be an alert over this area. And they have a weekly update put out today as well, still noting that very similar activity going on there. And so to give you a little bit more context, where is it? Here we are in Hawaii. Here is IE in Mariana. It's all that far to our west. Let's see if I can get a measure from Kilo to IE, 6,000 kilometers right there. Clear this. Yep, so that's where it is. And you just see the image here. Let's see if I get the picture of it. Here's what it looks like. Just a patch of water. They've done bathymetry. This is what it looks like underwater as a single volcano, up there. It actually had a summit crater form in this most recent eruption. It's one of many volcanoes in that area near the Mariana Trench. So a quick Wikipedia look, you can see there's been activity in the 60s and 70s, an eruption in 2014, an explosive eruption that lasted more than 2 weeks. After that, they came back and did multi-beam imagery of the seamount and noted a new 300-foot crater formed at the summit. We noted an eruption in 2022 to 2023, after which they saw the summit back within striking distance of the ocean surface. And so you see that we don't know a whole lot about this place, but that's there it is. Here's that multi-beam showing CO2 bubbles dispersing from the volcano, new summit crater at the top, this little V right in here. And they actually have gone through, like, after the fact. Oh, what's going on with this page? No, that's the one to show me. Oh, there it is. So just one snapshot from a paper here, showing they're actually measuring this plume in the seawater there. And I thought maybe one of the cooler things to look at would actually be to end with this. There's a video from Nautilus live here. Can you guys hear anything with this? Or? Can you guys hear anything?
No, I don't hear anything. No audio.
No, okay. Yeah, all good. So I'll just talk over here, right? So here they are, going down over IE Seamount. You're looking at fish and stuff, but look at those bubbles in the background there. They turn off the submarine light so you can see just the ambient light. This is what it looks like without anything erupting. And look at that, all that gas coming out of there, right? So we see the CO2 coming out and the gas coming out on the surface. But if you can see underwater, this might be the kind of view you actually get. So some things going on there. And fast forward. Some different views, all the CO2 coming out there from depth. And more of it's coming out. Maybe it's more sulfur now, something that's adding discoloration to the water, picking by satellite. And so I only bring this up because we are also an island. We have a seamount just offshore. People wonder what might actually happen if it were to have activity. And so this is our little, just because it happens to be happening right now, 6,000 kilometers to our west, we can share this view with you guys today.
Hey, one thing about the Nautilus that they upgraded last year, their ROV, they had to actually move the entire unit. They did not have a PTZ inside of it, so the entire unit had to move. They upgraded to this system here. It is amazing because it has the PTZs inside it, so they don't have to articulate the entire unit while they're down there. And the quality is just went up another 100 times.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. If you guys ever followed Nautilus, it's not exactly our gig all the time here, but there are some overlap times, and we like to shout them out when we can here. So
absolutely. I mean, I still follow them as much as I can because they do some amazing work and they get to places where we normally never would have been able to see before.
Awesome. So I know we've touched on some questions as we've gone along, but do we got anything else we want to discuss before we wrap it up here, guys?
Dane, you got some questions up there? If I could hear you.
I think we already covered them, really. And
yeah, we did.
So I think we're good on questions. Only one I see is this precursory or is this the actual episode?
Well, by the definitions that
yeah.
have been set, which is really the whole answer to this, right? You know, like we can still say it is erupting still, but this is not the high fountaining episode or the fountaining episode as they've been described and defined thus far.
They're not overflow episodes, they're fountain episodes.
Right. Although early on, when it was overflowing, that was counted as part of the episode. And now we've gotten wiser to that, and we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, so we're volcano snobs now, where if it's not over 100 feet, it don't count. But yeah, there's the difference between the precursory activity and the eruption phase, and you can really see it if you're watching live, the flip of the switch, so to speak.
All right, gentlemen.
Well, good work, Phil. Thank you for the update. And if people want to keep track of all this, you know, we'll be back next week, Thursday, 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That time might have changed for you with daylight savings time. So I saw somebody was thrown off on that, and I have been getting thrown off on that change. The mainland did too. So 5 p.m.
Not in Hawaii.
Yeah, but it but it affects us secondarily every time. But yeah, people will be active on the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group, sharing info, sharing images, video. So if you're not a member, try to check out Hawaii Tracker on Facebook, join the group, and be part of that community.
That's where you'll hear about the parking situation, the ranger situation, all the viewing situation,
Tefra flying on the road, all that kind of stuff. It'll be there when it
hits there first, usually.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. All right. So from our nonprofit HVERI, the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, I'm geologist Philip Ong. And for Luatori, Dane DuPont, aloha everybody. Till next week.